Hello Biology 230 students at Tuskegee University. This is Dr. Griffin with video 4 of Module 9. And remember, Module 9 is focusing on Chapter 14, which is Mendelian Genetics, Chapter 14 in your Campbell Biology textbook. Now, this video is going to focus only on pedigrees. Pedigrees are simply traces of traits, characters, or disorders, or diseases that are heritable, that are passed on from one generation to the next, and etc. And we can use pedigrees, these traces of traits, to determine how genes, how traits, how diseases are inherited. How are they passed on? What is the mode of inheritance? You'll often see that. Now, we'll first go through the key, which is standard through all human pedigrees and most mammalian pedigrees as well, is that an empty box will represent males that are not affected or males that do not have the trait or disease. An empty circle represents a female without the trait or disease. Shaded boxes, shaded squares, represents an affected male. So a shaded box represents an affected male. Likewise, a shaded circle indicates a female is affected by the trait or disease. When there is a line between two individuals, whether they are shaded or not, in this example they're not shaded, but when there's a line, that represents a mating, meaning that a male, get my arrow back, a male has mated with a female and they have indeed produced offspring, represented here with these lines coming down from the indication that a mating has occurred. So let's go through this pedigree for the occurrence of a widow's peak. You can see here this female has a widow's peak, which is at the edge of her forehead here, versus this female does not have a widow's peak. There is no edge sharpened to her forehead of hair. See that here there's a male that has a widow's peak. Look at his genotype. What is his genotype? I know it is WW, or as many will say, uppercase and lowercase w, but what is his genotype? Is it homozygous, dominant, homozygous recessive, or heterozygous? I'm not going to answer the question now. You should be able to answer it. He has a widow's peak. He mates with a female that does not have a widow's peak. They have children in the second generation. This male here, or this female here, excuse me, has a widow's peak. She mates with a male that does not have a widow's peak. And my arrow keeps disappearing. One of their daughters has a widow's peak, the other does not. You can see here goes on to the third generation. Both of these individuals have widow peaks, excuse me, and one female has a widow's peak and the other does not. Now this question asks, is a widow's peak a dominant or recessive trait? How would you figure that question out? You need to look at the mode of inheritance. Is it skipping generations? Is the trait seen in every generation? Well, for this case, for widow's peak, if the parent has it, at least one child in the next generation is going to have it. You see that in every case. So the best answer would be that widow's peak is a dominant trait. Okay, and that is indeed incorrect. You can check your explanation in your textbook in chapter 14. The clue is that dominant traits will be seen in each generation. Let's look at another trait. Attached earlobe or a free earlobe. Okay, first generation, two individuals do not have attached earlobes. They have free earlobes. They mate and they have 4 children. Two of them, who happen to be males, have attached earlobes. 2 children do not, one female, one male. One individual in this mating has attached earlobes, mates with someone that has a free earlobe, and then, arrow keys disappearing, they mate and have offspring, 2 females, 2 girls. One female has attached earlobe and the other has a free earlobe. And then you see here that 2 individuals that have free earlobes mate, have 2 daughters. One has an attached earlobe and the other has a free earlobe. Question: is an attached earlobe a dominant or recessive trait? Well, did you see it in every generation of mating? Well, we don't see it here. We don't see attached earlobes here, but we do see it in the next generation from this mating. Let's look here. Second generation mating. These 2 individuals don't have it, but one of their children does have an attached earlobe. This would indicate that having an attached earlobe is a recessive characteristic, or recessive trait. Excuse me. The key is that recessive traits will skip generations. Now, both of these traits are been described as being autosomal nature, which means they're on autosomes. You need to review that. Go back to your earlier text to review autosomes versus sex chromosomes. If a trait is autosomal, it is on an autosome. However, some traits are sex-linked, which means that they are on sex chromosomes, either on the X or the Y chromosome. And we will look at how that affects the appearance of dominant and recessive traits in pedigrees. That is it for video 4, which mainly focused on how to use and determine modes of inheritance using pedigrees. You have one more video to watch for Module 9, and don't forget to view it and learn from it, and you'll be almost done for Chapter 14, Module 9. Thanks and have a great day. This is Dr. Griffin signing out.